morning, all. We're going to call to order the Sun Valley Citizens Advisory Board for March 1st, 2025. Termination of quorum, please.
Amy Owen, sorry. Michael Ryder.
Here.
Mary Esposito is absent. Heidi Soper is also absent. Veronica Cortez is absent as well. Carmen Ortiz here, and Charles Mark Newman.
Present.
You have a quorum.
All right. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance next. Carmen, would you do that for us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before I call for item number 3, I see new faces and so normally what that means is I want to make sure everybody knows how this meeting operates. So we have, public comment at the beginning and the end, 3 minutes, on which, you're able to speak your mind. All we ask is that if you're complaining, all right, to complain about organizations, but please don't say anything derogatory about individuals. Okay, if you're upset with the county, we understand that. Just don't attack individuals with personal attacks. We're okay with you attacking the county. We're okay with you attacking whatever you want to attack. We're okay to sing a song as long as it's within 3 minutes. We have presenters here today. Common courtesy is let them finish their presentations before you ask questions. One question at a time. We keep stringing questions from people, and when we have bigger crowds, it's better to go one at a time. You can always get back in line and ask another question after you let somebody else ask one. So please only ask one question at a time. You get your answer, but the next person asks theirs, and then if you want to ask another one, we'll get you back in line. You can ask again. But I know we've got some really knowledgeable people in our community out here that just love to grill the people that are presenting for all the information they can get. That's true. And we appreciate that, because that's how we know what's going on. With that said, we're going to start now normally, I will let you also put your hands up, but I've got 3 people that have already put in forms for public speaking. We're going to take them in order. And then after that, I'll go ahead and take a raise of hands of anybody that didn't put one of these in that wants to speak. To give them opportunity. If you miss out on the first one, remember there's a second one at the end of the meeting for you to speak. So if you while we do this, you might find something you want to make a comment about after you hear the presentations, and then you can do that at the end. So we'll start item number 3 with Amy Owens. And let's see if this was working today. Oh, one other thing, please, whenever you ask a question or you're up for public comment, state your name for the minutes.
Amy Owens for the record, good morning. In August 19th of 2024, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer, and it's triple negative breast cancer because there's different kinds. Today is March and it's triple negative breast cancer awareness month. So I just want to put this out there. Inspect yourself. See your doctor regularly, get your blood work done. If you have any lumps, let your doctor know, because me doing that is the only reason that I'm able to fight cancer today. My last scan showed that the tumor, which was 1 inch by 1 inch, is completely gone. And I will be able to be declared cancer-free at my surgery, which is at the end of this month. Breast cancer can affect men, it can affect women, so please do your inspection, and yeah, hopefully we can prevent all that. Triple negative breast cancer is different than hormone-driven breast cancer. It's aggressive and it moves very quickly. And I see my doctor every year, and I went from having no lump to, in less than a year, having a very large lump. So please check yourself, see your doctor, get your blood work done, all the things. So thank you.
All right, next up is Cindy Leslie. Yeah. If you're gonna, yeah, I see what you're gonna talk about, so yes.
Cindy Leslie, and I participate in the Washoe County Senior Center here in Sun Valley. A gentleman from Better Business Bureau come and speak to us about scams. So I put all the information back there on the table. Also, they said, even if you report with Washoe County scam, most generally it's out of the jurisdiction, and it would help if you also reported it to the Better Business Bureau as well. Tuesday, Donna Kuntz, who works with ALP, and is on the Washoe Advisory Board. She's coming to the center to show us how to get on the legislature. There is a bill for financial crimes for seniors. So she's gonna teach us how to get on that. That's it.
All right, thank you, Cindy. The next one. Charlie Stockford.
Yes.
I was making sure that was an S and not a O. There you go.
Good morning, everybody. I've been up here before complaining about Fort Swain. And it's an old subject. I've been a year trying to get it cleaned up and nothing gets done. And here recently, I said within a city block of Fort Lane, there's now a small town being developed. People, homeless people, I feel for them, but they don't keep their stuff cleaned up, and it's a mess. Within a city block of Fort Lane, there's now 3 dump sites. That's the only thing I can say. One of them is on Gertis, and the other one's on Stella. And they're all within sight of each other. And I would like to see if somebody can do something about what's going on there. Clean up of the mess. It's gotten to be a health problem. Nobody seems to haul away their trash. They haul it in, they don't haul it out. And I would like to see if something could be done about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. I'll interject later. I have something to say about that as well, because I live near this area and I've got some more information on it. Teresa, how do you pronounce your last name?
Antisdell.
Nice, you can come up here and say something. There you go.
Good morning, my name is Teresa Antisdell. I am a parent of 2 boys in the Washoe County School District. My youngest is in 8th grade at Desert Skies Middle School. And I recently learned that there's a trend with the middle schools, and they are no longer doing an 8th grade graduation promotion ceremony and celebration. And I've been trying to brainstorm on how to reverse that trend and show to the current admin at Desert Skies that this is something that is important to celebrate. Because then next year, when he's in 9th grade, it's suddenly, oh, you've got to get all your credits in. You got to have 4 years of English and math and 2 of science, and you got to graduate. You can't be credit deficient. Whereas they've just spent the last 3 years of middle school being told education's not important. We're not going to celebrate you. While the schools have their celebration for their high achievers, which is awesome because my oldest is also a high achiever. So we got 2. We got the general promotion, walking across the stage, and then they had the celebration for all the honors kids and the students. And that is currently the only thing that Desert Skies is offering right now is a party for the kids who are high achievers. And I think that philosophy is very flawed and is discouraging to me as a parent. So I'm hoping to meet more connections and brainstorm and trying to figure out how maybe I could make a difference in changing this trend. And I wanted to solicit, there are so many people out here with their own businesses and maybe retired, that we need more volunteers at Desert Skies specifically. I go in a couple times a year. I take time off from work and I use my PTO time. And I'm happy to do that, but I also want to use PTO for the family vacation. But that's what I got to do because I value education and I show my boys that education is important. So I'm in their classrooms a couple times a year and I go to their sporting events and I figure out how to make it happen. And I'd like to solicit more support from maybe connecting with the seniors group and having public speakers come in, because I did that last month because I do payroll as a living, and I went into my son's 8th grade level classroom and I taught payroll math. to eighth graders for the whole day. And there's other ways to get more community involvement to show these kids that it is important to be educated and we need to celebrate that. Thank you.
Okay, so hands, I guess Mark wants to make a public comment. Come up here.
Just let Veronica be
Well, I
recognized.
was
as
gonna
showing up.
recognize her in a second. but-
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just recognizing that Veronica Cortez is arrived. Yeah, everybody clap. She's happy. Anybody else want to make a public comment in the first round? Okay, I will make one as a private citizen. I'll step out for a minute, not being the cab. Michael Ryder, Sun Valley citizen. I live up near, Quartz and Stella. I have pictures on my phone of what's happening up there. We have the cities are doing something to try to alleviate homeless, but what is having a byproduct of it is forcing homeless out of the cities. The cities are forcing the homeless out. They're not wanting their programs. I know they've got some great ones, but homeless are like that. They're migrating here. That's why we have the problems up here. The little homeless community that was up on Stella and Quartz has probably grown 3 times in the last, in size in the last few weeks. They're migrating up here. They're asking for directions at the 7-Eleven to come up. And I wanted to tell you that we're working on a couple different solutions, at least the residents that are up there. We're trying, there's a health angle because that is a watershed that drains down through the creeks in Sun Valley and goes all the way to the river. And there is some health problems because these people dump their trash and human waste in this area. They're not discriminating. They even do it to the neighbor's lawn. So we've had issues like that before. We are trying to get a hold of the property owner. This property has been sold. It used to be Harmony Estates. Right now it's kind of in limbo because they let that fall apart. But we're trying to get a hold of the property owner. I have some people, process servers, that would be happy to trespass and use a couple other things that they know to move squatters off of property. But they have to have a certified permission from the owner of the property to be able to do those things, because I realize it's private property, and so the county can't do anything about it. It's private property. We have to approach the homeowner, and I'm in the process of trying to get that done from my end. Anything you guys can do to help this process, Charlie and I have been fighting this battle for a while in our area. We would love to have any help you can give us up here, because Quartz has always been a problem, and now it's growing around us and it's getting worse and worse. We just want to try to nip it in the bud. Not that I would love to help these homeless people, but they have stolen things out of my yard as they walk through. I have to keep cameras and lights on the front of my property to deter the issues that come from having a large homeless camp close to your home. And I know everybody else in the area is doing the same thing. That's it. I just want to bring awareness to it, and we're just letting you know that there are people working on this problem outside of the people that come here. Just to let you know that. That's it. Anyone else want to talk? Okay, then we're going to move on to the next item, which is item number 4, approval of the minutes for the meeting on February 1st, 2025. There will entertain a
I
motion.
have just a couple corrections.
Okay.
On the first page, it says, when we were thanking Heidi Soper for her dedication to Hidden Valley by attending all these various lengthy meetings and standing up for Sun Valley, it says RCC 80. It's supposed to say RTC, that would be the Regional Transportation Commission. And then item number 4, I don't think it was Carol Burns that moved. I think it was Heidi Soper that moved. Not on the board anymore. And in the very last page, I'll give this to you. I wrote it for you, but we asked, it was actually me that asked that we could have code enforcement come out, and their previous code enforcement officer was Bert Bracy. So it's just a correction, but so code enforcement would handle that water. No, anyway, well, when we get them out here, you can ask them, Charlie. And then the last one in public comment, Carol Burns has been requesting for 5 years really to get Chucky Meadows Fire Department out here. So, it was Tom? Okay, come on. So that's been like 2 years. It was Tumwa because what happened with the fire. Anyway, those are the only corrections that I have. So with those, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that takes care of that one. All right, the next thing is item number 5, which would be public, safety updates. I don't see the sheriff, so I guess the fire department's on the hot seat.
You show up.
Yeah, you're on your own. All right, there you go, sir.
Good morning, for the record, James Solero, Trucking Mouse Fire Battalion Chief. For the month of February, we were pretty busy, in those short 28 days. Looks like we had 151 medical, incidents during in the valley, 3 fires, and then, the remainder 50-ish were just different, some little hazmat, MBAs, those sort of things, good intent calls. Coming into the spring, we do plan on having open burning. Unfortunately, in the valley here, we're within the hydrographic basin. So you aren't able to burn here because we don't have any 2-acre or larger lots. So, but there is going to be some open burning going on around the rest of the county. Green waste is unfortunately not going to be occurring this spring. Our budget is to the point where we've got to hire some equipment to get rid of the green waste that we collected last fall. And we aren't going to be able to do the green waste this spring. And then the last thing I've got is that next week, we're springing forward on the time change. So it's a good time to change your smoke detector batteries. Think about it. That's all I've got for this month.
Any questions for the fire department?
Yes.
State your name.
How about it, we did you,
State your name.
$8 for the record. Okay. How about the ditches and the ones that haven't been cleaned out, with all the stuff in it, that if we ever had a fire, that the wind was blowing, wouldn't that be a big problem?
Ditches and everything, Dwayne, is that gonna be on the Public Works?
Public works,
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about roadside ditches, or if you're talking about the natural drainages that have growth and those types of things.
no, I'm talking dirt, I'm talking trash cans, cans, weeds, trees that are taller than me, and I'm not very tall, but they're tall. You know, they haven't cleaned them in, I don't know how long. I have called county roads. And they said, well, they'd send somebody out to look. If they sent somebody out to look, they haven't done a thing.
I can get with you after the meeting.
Either, yeah, you'll get to ask that question again.
Okay.
I have a question. Hi, Veronica, Cortez. What did, back to, I'm new to this, but you said something about there's no 2-acre properties about fire. Can you just, what were you talking about that?
Open burning
Okay, open burning means,
means that you can do pile burning to reduce waste, green waste.
but not in some valley, because why?
Because we have, in the county, you have to have at least 2 acres and you can't be in the hydrographic basin. Hydrographic basin 87, I believe it is. Don't quote me on that number. But that is basically the area in and around the city of Reno Sparks, and it's from air quality. Okay.
Thank you for the information.
Yes, sir.
Mark Newman for the record. We've talked about this numerous other times on the fire hydrants, and is there some kind of like scheduling that you can bring next month and say, this area got hit, this area got hit, this area in the future plans on other areas that are gonna be hit? So that people can understand that the fire hydrants are gonna be kept.
I think that's what we're gonna be speaking
Yeah,
about.
we have a actual presentation on the fire hydrants here coming up.
Nice.
Okay. There you
All right, thank you for the report. Now, actually, that's the next thing up. Item number 6, is well, since the sheriff's not here, unfortunately, the sheriff's not here, so we're not gonna have that report, today. They're probably busy doing something important. They don't normally miss this meeting, so we forgive them. There's something going on in the valley, otherwise I know they would be here, because they always do. So the next one is fire hydrants in Sun Valley. Dwayne Smith, you're on the hot seat. Here you go.
Well, actually, I think I'm sharing the hot seat with my good friend Chris Melton.
For those who don't know, Chris Melton is the general manager of the Sun Valley General Improvement District.
Good morning, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dwayne Smith. I'm with Washoe County. I'm the Director of Engineering, and I also serve as the county engineer. And I have with me Chris.
My name's Chris Melton. I'm the Sun Valley General Improvement District's general manager.
So we're here to talk to you this morning about fire hydrants. And so since Washoe County owns the fire hydrants that are located within the Washoe County right of way, I thought I'd take the lead on some of the discussion items and certainly hand it over to Chris when we get to some of those points. So this morning I wanted to go through a few things with you. I wanted to talk with you about who owns the fire hydrants, who maintains the fire hydrants, who constructs the fire hydrants, who uses the hydrants and what do they use the fire hydrants for, where does the water come from that feeds the fire hydrants, and I think an important one is who do I call if I see some maybe water on the street associated with a fire hydrant, or who do I call if I see somebody back into a fire hydrant and do some damage. So those are the things that I wanted to talk about this morning. And I've heard there's been a lot of questions. And so as I go through this, I'll run through these kind of bullet points, and then Chris and I are here to answer some questions at the end. So I'll start off with the first one of who owns the fire hydrants. And I will tell you that Washoe County owns all the fire hydrants that are located within Washoe County right of way. So when you drive through the unincorporated areas of Washoe County, Sun Valley, in the south, up in Spanish Springs, Cold Springs, etc., any of that infrastructure that's located within the right of way, signs, the roadway, the sidewalks, those types of things, generally speaking, all of those are public infrastructure that's owned by Washoe County. So we're responsible for that. And that does include the fire hydrants. Now, one of the things that we don't own is fire hydrants on private roadways. So there may be private roadways, developments where that development, the HOA owns the streets and owns that infrastructure. They're also responsible for those fire hydrants in those areas. But overall, Washoe County owns over 4,000 fire hydrants throughout the unincorporated areas. And here in Sun Valley, I brought this printout. This is off of the Washoe County regional mapping system. So if you go on to Washoe County's website, you can go up to the type in fire hydrants or worms. And I say worms, not WORMS, but worms, Washoe regional mapping system. It's a little difficult to find, but you can ultimately find the layer that turns on the fire hydrants. And so that's all I did this morning, was I just went in and turned on those fire hydrants and then printed this out. So you get an idea of how many fire hydrants are in the Sun Valley area. Who maintains the fire hydrants? It's no good to have a fire hydrant if they're not maintained, right? So in unincorporated areas of Washoe County, maintenance is done in a couple of different ways. There's two types of maintenance. The first is minor maintenance. Minor maintenance is things like making sure that the barrel, when you fill the barrel up, that the water drains out of the fire hydrant. There's a little hole in the bottom of a fire hydrant underneath the ground. And that is important. We have in our area, because of freezing conditions, dry barrel hydrants. So we need to make sure that the water drains out of the hydrants. That's a minor maintenance item. So we go out and fill up the hydrant, make sure that the water drains out of the hydrant. Fire hydrants have mineral oil in the bonnet, making sure that the mechanism is free and is operable when the gentlemen from the fire department show up and need to use that. So we change out oil. We make sure that the connections are accessible and make sure that they're ready to go. These are some of the minor maintenance items. Major maintenance and replacement are when somebody backs over a fire hydrant. Maybe it just pops the connection off the bottom and we can reuse that hydrant, or maybe the hydrant is damaged and we have to repair the hydrant. In some cases, depending upon the age of the hydrant, depending upon the age of the pipe in the ground, maybe we have to get in the street, dig up that lateral that comes over from the main, from Chris's main, over to the hydrant. Washoe County owns the section that comes over to the hydrant. And so that's our responsibility if that part of the main is broken or damaged in some way. So sometimes we actually have to get in, cut up the streets, and replace that pipe. Those are more expensive repairs. On average, we see, although I will tell you, we do see some spikes. Last year we saw, what was it, 3 or 4 that we had to get in here in Sun Valley, but overall in the county, we saw about 10 of those where we had to really get in and do some of that major maintenance work. In Sun Valley, Washoe County is responsible for both the minor maintenance and the major maintenance. So we're responsible to go out and make sure that those major or minor maintenance activities are being done, making sure that the hydrants are available. We follow the AWWA M17 circular. That's the American Water Works Association's guidance document for the minor maintenance of fire hydrants. Outside of Sun Valley and some other areas, we entered into an agreement with the Truckee Meadows Water Authority, and the Truckee Meadows Water Authority does the minor maintenance work on some of Washoe County's fire hydrants. I just would quickly say that I do appreciate the close relationship that Washoe County has with the Sun Valley GID and vice versa, because fire hydrants obviously are very important. And I think Chris and his crew do a really good job keeping good communication with us when things come up. Who constructs fire hydrants? Fire hydrants are not constructed by the Sun Valley General Improvement District for the most part. They're not constructed by Washoe County for the most part. They're constructed as part of new development. So when a developer is going in and building a subdivision or doing some type of improvements, they're conditioned to put those fire hydrants in, and that's where most of the fire hydrants come from, most of the construction. Now, I will tell you that the fire department, James Slura back here and his crews are responsible to go through and they do a very good job of identifying through the new development process where those fire hydrants need to go. So that's part of what they do is they are a reviewer and a conditioner of new development. They identify where those hydrants need to go. We get the plans back from them. Our job is to make sure that that developer install those hydrants, make sure that they're the right type of hydrant, make sure that they're inspected when they're installed. And in Sun Valley, we certainly rely on Chris's crews and teams to help us do that, making sure that they're done correctly.
One thing I would just like to add is that, the fire department also, they determine how many hydrants, where they're located, and what the flow needs to be. So that's how we design our system around that to meet those needs.
That's a great point. Who uses fire hydrants? Well, we of course know that our partners in the fire protection district, that's our primary user, right? But fire hydrants aren't just used for fighting fires. Civic, Chris's crews use fire hydrants to do things like water quality, flushing.
Some flushing, but what I will say is a majority of our flushing is through dead ends. And so that's what we try to focus on.
So you've got a variety of ways that you can maintain your system.
It is an option.
Yeah. You're doing probably at times, or contractors, consultants will go out and do flow tests on hydrants to determine how much water can actually come out of those hydrants. And as Chris just said a second ago, part of what they're doing is making sure that when the new development comes in, making sure that the hydrants know what the pressure is and what the flow volumes are. So there's pressure testing that's done on hydrants. So you might have at some point in the past seen a crew out with a device that they screw onto one of the bonnets, and it's got a big pressure gauge on it, and they have the flow test that go on the other side. And another thing that fire hydrants are used for, rarely, but sometimes they need to be used if a water line goes down in an area and there needs to be some temporary water brought over from a fire hydrant. So fire hydrants serve a lot of different purposes. Where does the water come from? I'm gonna turn this one over.
Yeah. So we purchase all of our water wholesale through, from Truckee Meadows, Water Authority. We have a wholesale that comes in through 5,000 Sun Valley Boulevard into our main pump station. We also have a secondary wholesale that comes up from, O'Brien's Pass, and that's gravity fed into our system. So at any given time, we have about 4,500 GPM that we can pull into, our system. That's the supply. Then obviously we need all of the fire storage. We have over 9 million gallons of fire storage throughout the valley with 9 tanks, as well as additional booster pumps around the valley. I think the main, take from this is that everything goes through the fire department to meet their flows and, storage. So that's how we build our system. And that way we can ensure when the fire department comes out, they can fight that fire with the right flow.
I think Chris, you bring up a great point, and one of the last points I was gonna make, I'm gonna tie into that. So fire hydrants might seem, just like a pretty minor thing, but they are very important, obviously, for a community. And they require a lot of partnership. So we've got the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, who utilizes those hydrants to gain access to water. It's not their only way. They do have tender trucks and they have different approaches and strategies depending upon where they are. But certainly, when there's a fire hydrant available, they want to maximize the use of that hydrant. With the Sun Valley General Improvement District, that's another key player, making sure that the water is coming through the system, making sure that the water is available. But if it's in Washoe County, holds the role to make sure that the hydrants work, so that when Chris is doing his job, bringing the water to the hydrants, making sure that James is, when he gets there, can hook up to the fire hydrant. I need to make sure that the fire hydrant is available for use. So there's a lot of partnership and a lot of communication that goes on. So when you think about that, there's over 400 hydrants just here in the Sun Valley area, and there's over 4,000 in the unincorporated area. And I'm not even talking about those that are in Sparks and in the city of Reno. I mean, there's a lot of fire hydrants out there. The way that we track these assets, and they are assets to Washoe County, is with our asset management program. And so we have GPS locations where each of the hydrants are. We have records of when we go out and maintain those hydrants, either a minor maintenance activity. So if somebody goes out and they're checking the oil and they replace the oil in that bonnet, well, that gets noted into the asset management program. If somebody goes out and is filling up the barrel and the barrel doesn't drain, that turns into the next level of maintenance to make sure that we don't have a situation where water freezes in the barrel. That moves into the next category. So we really rely on our asset management approach to make sure that we're constantly looking at our assets in Washoe County. Again, that's things like sidewalks, our roadways, our signs, our street signs. A lot of people don't realize how much effort goes into making sure that our street signs are on the right place and that they have the correct reflectivity and those types of things. And it certainly goes to what the fire hydrants are. We are ever evolving at Washoe County to make sure that we're meeting our maintenance requirements. So this year in the new budget, we actually came up with a strategy to kind of refocus how we're approaching the standard operating procedures for minor maintenance of hydrants. So we worked very closely with the assistant county manager, who had some additional, very small amount and funding. And I put some funding in from the utilities. So we're actually increasing the number of people that are available to do the inspection program. I think that's a real important thing for you to know, because again, as we all expect that fire hydrant to be active, to be ready to go when there is a fire, there needs to be that level of diligence. Are we perfect? No, of course not. No organization is perfect. It's unreasonable to think that every organization is perfect. But I think we're doing a pretty good job maintaining and then addressing when we do have major issues. Those major issues, again, are where maybe somebody backs into a fire hydrant or something is damaged in some other way. So those are our priority. So we really focus on those where we have damaged fire hydrants that are not operable. Obviously, that's going to be the priority. Now, if you're driving around the community, you might sometimes see a little sign hanging off of a fire hydrant. And that sign is there if that fire hydrant has been damaged or is not operable and is not ready to go. So we hang a sign on that hydrant so that when and if there is an emergency, that the fire department knows that that particular hydrant is not active. Part of what we also do, because it is based on the GIS system, is we communicate and try to make sure that people know, what's going on. So if there is again a fire, it's not just that sign, but hopefully that there's a record that says, yeah, that fire hydrant is temporarily out of action. But those things happen. It could be last night, there could have been a hydrant hit, right? So there's those timeframes that we have to expect that need to be addressed. The last point that I wanted to make, before I hand it back over to Chris, is just what I was saying about things like leaks. You might be driving down the street, you see water bubbling up out of the ground. You know, I think your first instinct is probably to call Chris and his crews, the Sun Valley General Improvement District, and that's absolutely right. But I also encourage you, if you see somebody back in a hydrant, or if you just have a question about hydrants, the primary way to get information from the county is to call 311. You call 311, there's a group of people, 311. It's kind of, don't call 911, call 311. And what that does is they are the kind of the first level of making sure whatever your question is. Maybe it's about there's a dog running around, or whatever that is, or a fire hydrant question. It goes into that group of people, and then they make sure that the right person gets that call and is able to provide that answer. It's really, we're trying to shorten the number of times somebody calls in, and how many times they're bounced from person to person, right? I don't like when I call in and I get bounced and I end up hanging up the phone or something like that. But so we're trying our best. Again, no system is perfect, but I think it's a pretty good system. The other part of the 311 system that's important is that when we do answer that question, there's a record of that, right? Because that's happened in the past. People call up and have a question, and then they say, hey, I never got an answer. Well, we need to figure out how to make that better. Sometimes people call and say, hey, I didn't get an answer. And maybe there was a different person that called in and we actually did provide the answer. So this is a system that helps with that. So I think that let me turn it back over to Chris.
I have a question, Wayne. Carmen Ortiz for the record. Oh, sorry. Okay.
I just would like to thank Dwayne and for all his hard work. You know, we've got a great relationship with the county. Want to continue that relationship. We'll offer and help in any way we can to assist with the loan of our yard for equipment, identifying broken hydrants, isolating hydrants, working on new installation and provide inspections for the county. So I just wanted to thank Dwayne for all his hard work on that.
Well, it's a two-way street. Certainly, I appreciate, we've been over to your offices with our crews and we've talked and we'll continue to figure out ways better. So I do appreciate that. So I hope that this brief discussion this morning gives you a little bit better background on the importance of fire hydrants, that Washoe County owns the hydrants in the right of way. We're responsible for those. We work very closely with our partners at Sun Valley and some of the other areas around to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And also with our partners like the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District to make sure that those hydrants are available and active when they need those things. So I hope that helps a little bit. We're certainly here to answer any questions that you might have. I think there was a question right over here.
Thank you. Carmen Ortiz for the record. Thank you again, Dwayne and Chris. And I was just wondering, when a hydrant is down for service and you hang that little tag, what's the time frame to fix that?
It really depends. Some of the things that go into that are what's the kind of damage. Is it something that the whole hydrant needs to be replaced, or is it something maybe something was damaged and a kit could be used to replace it? Some of it is prioritization because we do have limited staff. So when things happen, we have to make sure that we're prioritizing. Again, fire hydrants are very important. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to walk down in here and think that fire hydrants aren't important, but there's a lot of things that are important as well. And so we have limited crews, we have a limited approach. So we're going to get to those things. But when you see that sign, it's a good thing to know that we're aware of it. So it's not unknown. It's part of our awareness and it's part of that asset management system. So that I hope that helps answer some of that question. Can't give you a specific. I would never say that we're going to be out there in 24 hours or 72 hours. I can't make that kind of commitment.
It depends.
It depends. It does depend.
Sean McGrath for the record. Some 40 odd years ago, I was on the board of the Rural Fire Protection District. And all our fire hydrants were painted different colors based on the flow, so the fire department would know how to set their engines, et cetera. I live just south of the GID and they just repainted all the fire hydrants from yellow to red. I was wondering if that's a concern.
Does that mean?
What's that mean? Yeah.
Does that mean?
Well, I wanted to double check. Definitely bring James up there.
And when you say south of the GID, the office?
Oh, just, I live on the hill off Candy.
Oh, okay.
To be honest, there's no difference between a yellow hydrant and a red hydrant. At one point in time, it delineated out the difference between Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, City of Reno, NDF. There's a lot of different agencies in the valley. So some of them were yellow, most of them in Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District were all yellow. The rest of the valley was red, City of Sparks was yellow. We've kind of gone away from that. We don't care what color the hydrant is. Now, if you see a bonnet, the top of the hydrant, a different color, if it's white, that is a private hydrant. That is not on, say, Sun Valley or Tonawah system, it's a private hydrant. You can also see, Incline Village has gone through and they've done a very good job of it, and it has to do with their ISO ratings. But they've gone through and they've colored, orange, red, blue, green on their bonnet or on their steamer fittings. That has to do with the flows that come out of those hydrants. We haven't done that in our district. It's just, it's easier for us to just go ahead and call Tonawah or Sun Valley GID and say, hey, what is this? And they've got a zone, and that zone is gonna flow X amount of GPM.
Thank you.
All right?
James, just a quick question, maybe something about it. How important is it for the barrel of the hydrants to be painted? I know that we get phone calls a lot. People say, hey, when are you gonna come out and paint this hydrant? And it used to be, I think, that painting the hydrants, the barrels, was a little bit more meaningful than it is today. Is that?
Yeah, the biggest thing for the painting, I think, and you guys can respond to this, but is just to keep it from rusting out. They're cast, all the hydrants are cast, but we don't really have a real rust problem, but it's just in maintenance. That's all there is. But it doesn't have any effect on how they operate for us.
Yeah, it doesn't, and just to add, just to make sure, does that painted hydrant, is it easier to find and during emergency, or is it part of your GIS system? And
Well, actually, I've got my phone over here and I can pull up the same map on my phone. So when we're responding, we have the same map in the engine. We've got it on our phones. The biggest thing to locate them is making sure that they're clear around it. Yeah, the NFPA states that not NFPA. The International Fire Code states that you've got to have a 3-foot clearance all the way around them. That's one, so we can get in there and operate them, but 2, it's so we can actually find them. We've got areas, for example, up in the Galena Forest area, where the hydrants sit on the opposite side of the ditch, underneath a bush, in the front yard. And at 2 in the morning, it's kind of hard to find that sucker sometimes. So you gotta know your district, you gotta know where these different hydrants are. But it's a lot of just firefighter knowledge and going off the maps that we've got. And we know that there's one around here, where is it? So, yeah, so, and when it snows, help us out, dig those hydrants out. So
I've heard a lot to make sure you don't park in front of the hydrants.
we have the ways to get around that.
Yeah.
Yes,
The window.
sometimes, yes.
Thank you, Jim.
No problem.
Mark Newman for the record. I've got a couple of questions for you. All of the fire hydrants are within Sun Valley. Is there some type of a scheduling where they hit different areas? And is there a chance that people here at the cab or within the GID could be notified that you're gonna be having your fire hydrants worked on it this year or this month?
So the way the asset management approach works, Mark, is that we, based on the age, based on when they were last maintained, et cetera, they'll kind of block out an area, right? And you may not even know that they're there, right, that they've been by. It may be something that takes about 10 minutes. If they get there and there's more brush to be cleared or something like that, it might take a little bit longer. So when they'll go into areas, I can't tell you that they're going to go specifically into this area because those things do change even on a daily basis, right? So they might have their system kind of laid out and their areas projected, but something else might come up and they go to a different area. I don't think it would, it would work out real well to try to say, hey, we're gonna be in this area, we change, and then somebody says, well, how come you weren't in that area, right? You have to give the guys in the field the opportunity to be flexible and how they're approaching things.
So then if that's a situation, is there something that says 2024, this areas in Sun Valley were hit, these areas in 2023 were hit, and at the end of 2025, these areas were hit, so all of Sun Valley has actually been looked at in the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years for all the different fire hydrants.
I don't have a link that ties in the asset management system to a public facing approach. You know, like, there's no link on the website that you could go in and click on a hydrant and take you back into the asset management system. I don't know if there's a lot of, there'd be a lot of programming, but I don't know if there's a lot of value in that, Mark.
Okay.
You know, ultimately what we're relying on and what you need to know is that we've got crews that do this maintenance work. We've got fire protection districts that are utilizing this, and we've got water purveyors that are making sure that the water is there. And the real key, at least for me, where I sit, is to make sure that this is what's working, right? These are the things that are working to make sure that those hydrants, just like with any public infrastructure, just like the roadways, the crack sealing, the pothole filling, making sure that the lights in the signals are being replaced, making sure that the street lights are being replaced. Those are all those same types of things that are part of that asset management system. And so I think that's probably the best answer I can give you.
Okay, so another quick question is, as far as the asset management, there's a lot of stop signs throughout the valley here, where you can be driving down the street, the stop signs behind a bush or something. There's no markings on the ground or nothing else. Cars blow through it and you got a T-bone accident. That happens quite regularly out here. Does somebody go through to check and say, hey, you got to trim your tree, or is that just
Yeah, that's a great question.
flipping a coin in the air when you're driving down the road?
Well, there's a couple of pieces here, and I think that what I'm gonna say, I think everybody can agree with. First of all, yes, our roads crews are the ones that are primarily, they're out and about, and so they identify those things. Then they'll send in or put into the work order system, a tree needs to be trimmed, or a bush needs to be removed, or whatever that is, when that sits in the right of way. But I will tell you that there is a little bit of a challenge with trees, because trees are not usually in the right of way. Trees are not usually planted. I'm not saying that this is the blanket case, but for the most part, what we have is trees on private property. So when we come to that situation, we'll shoot off a letter that says, hey, can you trim your tree? If you don't trim your tree within a certain amount of days, we need to do that. We need to make sure you're aware that we're going to be cutting your tree. There have been instances where, and we're going to cut them, we're going to do it because it needs to be done, right? You need to be able to see that stop sign or whatever that sign is. Sometimes people get a little bit animated when we cut the trees. So there is a little bit of a partnership. I want to go back to the comment I made a minute ago about 311. If you see that, please call 311. The number one way, you got to remember, we're the size of Washoe County, and I'm sure it's like with all organizations. We're a much smaller organization than we've ever been. You know, the downturn, the 2010, I mean, we were a big organization, we're a much smaller organization. We rely on our partners. You're part of the community, I'm part of the community. We're relying on you as well. So if you see something, please call 311 and say, hey, I was driving down this intersection. I couldn't see the sign. There was a tree in front of it. There was a bush, or what, it'd be a pretty big bush, but there's a tree in front of it. Can you do something about it? That's really helpful.
Or when the stop sign got run over. I noticed.
Or when the stop sign gets run over.
Because that happens regular out here too. I've noticed out throughout the rest of the valley, where there are stop signs, there's a white strip on the road to let you know, kind of give you awareness that there is something going on there. Stop. But we don't have any of that out here. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, we've gotten away from doing a lot of pavement marking. Again, it's a cost issue. It's a maintenance issue. So that's really primarily why. The amount of paint that you see on the streets is probably less now than you've ever done. And it's not something that gets updated a lot. We do rely on the signage as our primary means of
informing the traveling public about what they're supposed to be doing on the road.
Your chest meeting did that? With the GID?
I have.
Do you have one in the office?
Yeah, we have our GIS system, which has, not necessarily the hydrant location, but the valve that operates the hydrant. So it's roughly similar and we can provide that.
We thought it'd be neat to see it someplace where people could have.
Oh, that Carol needs to ask a question.
Carol Burns for the record. You're speaking about the GID, but we live up on the east side of the valley, which is Tumwa. And I put a picture back there of the home that burnt down next to me. And I know when they were fighting that fire, they had to bring in a water truck for some reason. And then they were rolling out hose everywhere. Evidently the hydrants near them were not working. Who's responsible for the Tumwa section, which I think runs quite a ways back into the valley?
She lives up in Juniper.
I'm up off of Rampion. Rampion,
Just outside of.
and then up above me, up above us, is Tumwa also. And you're talking about them, what about us?
So Carol, I think your question is who's responsible for those hydrants that are in the right of way? Again, no, the hydrants are Washoe County's responsibility. Just like here in Sun Valley, the hydrants are our responsibility. So we need to make sure that they're operable, making sure that the minor maintenance is done. And if somebody damages a hydrant, again, runs over with a car or whatever, that we're replacing those hydrants. The responsibility for the water is not Washoe County. We're not a water company. We don't do that. But we work closely with our partner at Tumwa to make sure that that there is water there. And usually that shouldn't be an issue. The systems are all designed based on fire flow, the pressures and the volumes of water that's available for fighting fires. For instance, a water tank that sits up on the hill, a large volume of that water tank that sits on the hill, if you think about it, you kind of cut that tank into slices. The biggest slice of water in that tank is for fighting fires. The fire storage component is the biggest piece in that tank. Then you have operational, which is a much smaller amount of water, and then you have some backup or backup storage.
So you're saying that Tumwa gets the water from the tanks?
Yep, so Tumwa's water goes up into the tank and then that water comes down through the pipes and through that fire hydrant. So I don't know the specifics, Carol, of the situation that you're talking about. It's unfortunate if somebody lost their home. That's a horrible thing. But I will tell you that Washoe County is responsible for the hydrants. Tumwa provides the water, and the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, or if you're in the city of Sparks, the city of Sparks Fire Department or Reno Fire Department are the ones that are fighting that fire with that water. They do have other sources of water like tenders. They bring trucks with tanks in the trucks. But I don't know the specifics, but the fundamentals are what we're talking about. I think this lady had a question over here. Oh, you don't?
No, but I was still gonna ask a question.
Oh, of course.
I could talk up.
Kate
Kate Dyer,
there you go.
for the record. We just had our 7th accident of somebody running a stop sign in my area. A 6th in Pearl. It's the 7th in probably 10 years. I know that's not a lot, but that's still, they're running it. And I've heard people say they didn't even know that stop sign was there. Now, can we paint that line on it for that particular area? Is that too much to ask? Just and so somebody sees it, because it's way up, it's way up. And there's a bush here, so people tend to run through it both ways.
Alexander.
Okay, I'm gonna let you answer that question, but this is about fire hydrants, so if you want those kind of questions.
Well,
I know, and I let Mark get off topic and you caused it, but.
So he said they did.
I know,
I don't have
those kind of
about it.
questions need to be taken to the back of the room after his presentation, if you want questions asked that are not fire hydrant related. Okay, just to keep on to the topic, We can't just slide.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, she's trying to give me the high sign that we need to keep on topic, so stick to fire hydrants. If you want other questions, I know it's nice to have the resource right here in the room, and that's good. After he's done here, maybe you can go back here.
Well,
and
now he
ask your
knows
question.
about it, so maybe I don't have to
Yeah,
finish.
so- Go ahead and
And
answer.
you're the boss.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
and
I'm
answer the
gonna
question.
follow whatever your lead is, but if you could call into 311, but I will tell you that we're taking that note down. We'll look into it. We'll get back with you.
Thank you.
I don't have an answer for you right now.
I know, but I just thought maybe it might be a good time to say something about it.
No, I appreciate it. So you're the boss, so.
Oh, no, I want to keep it to the item on the agenda, because that's what's been advertised for the fire hydrant. If you have other questions, not a problem, but we'll do it with the person in the back after you're done with the presentation. Any other questions about the fire hydrants?
I just got a question, Veronica Cortez, right here, thanks, I'll take the microphone.
You just said that you're at your lowest right now on manpower for your agency, so you're gonna be relying on partners like us to help you through maybe decisions you need to make, right? So when we attend these meetings, getting the information from our Valley members, and then we take this information to the meeting, are we going to have the opportunity to at least have a fighting chance? I'm new to this, and as I've done that, it looks like we just get steamrolled. So I just want to know, from your mouth, you said you rely on us as partners to help you go through future construction. Yes, we will have your support on different agencies like the GID, like our board and stuff. We're here, this is what we want, so they send our representatives out to these meetings at your level, not maybe you, but personally, but I've been to some of these meetings, and they don't care what we have to say. So I just want to know, this is the first time I'm meeting you, and you're telling me that you're gonna rely on us as the GID, maybe the CAB, for when there's projects happening, you're gonna come to us for maybe ideas or recommendations?
Yeah, great question, and I want to add on to that. So when I said a second ago, I'm not as loud as maybe. I think as community members, it's really important when we see something, say something, right? So when I'm talking to all of us, because we're all part of the community. So if you see a problem with a sign, you see a problem with a fire hydrant, you see something, whatever that is, that's what I'm asking you to do, is call into 311 and make sure that you're leaving that message. Make sure you're talking to that person so we can get it into the record. Because we don't have people that are just out driving around looking at things. We do not have staffing levels to allow that to happen. So we're all should be relying on each other to help exchange information. Now, what you're talking about is as well is the relationships like Chris and I have to make sure that when things come up, well, I'll give you a quick example. Just in the last week, Chris called me up and said, hey, I need to understand something. I got a problem with some permitting, right? So he knows he can call me because he's already talked to maybe somebody else, but he calls me up and he says, hey, can you help me out here? Help me understand this. So we have that kind of relationship that Chris can call me up, kind of chew on me a little bit if he needs to chew on me or thank me or whatever it is. I don't care whatever it is, because what it really means is that there needs to be something that's resolved, right? Some kind of solution. So that's the kind of relationship, and the same things with the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District and the same relationship there. So when new development comes in, I think that I heard you use the development term in there. Don't forget that there's a lot of rules and requirements that have to be followed with new development. Washoe County has a development code that's about that thick. I'm glad I'm not a developer because I think I'd lose my mind trying to go through all those rules and requirements. But there's a reason for all those rules and requirements, because of public safety, because making sure that the things are done correctly. And a lot of the things are even what people don't think about. When we're designing roadways, for instance, and making sure we got the thickness of the asphalt there, and I'm just using this as a quick example. The reason I bring this up is because part of that development code, part of that partnership is to make sure that the things are done in the right way so that lowers future maintenance costs. Chris's maintenance costs are a huge part of what your fees are being paid into your water system. Same thing with our roadways. So
there's a lot of collaboration. I kind of spent few extra minutes, but I want to express some of those points with you.
Thank you. That means a lot to us because you from your agency coming down and taking your time out means a lot. Cause I know we do feel overlooked sometimes, even if it is your department not developing whatever. So thank you for your time.
I just came for the coffee.
Me too.
I'm joking.
Any other questions on fire hydrants?
I got one last statement. I would like to thank both of you for giving up part of your weekend to be here and explain stuff to us. I appreciate very much for the extra effort you guys are both putting out for us.
Okay. Thank you. You want anything else to say to it? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, man.
All right, now we're gonna move to item number 7, Sun Valley Emergency Response and Preparedness. Kelly here, oh, good. Excellent. Where's the mic? On the far side.
Sure, have me follow Dwayne and Chris. Jeez. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Echeverria. I am your county emergency manager. We're gonna just chat a little bit about preparedness today, and I wanna just give you some high level explanation of what we do. I'm just gonna try not to, do death by PowerPoint, but we'll go through it. Like a clicker, no, just you. All right. I was told also that we could sing up here. Is that?
Yeah, I said it.
All right, I got my karaoke song locked and loaded if this goes south. So, this is my team. We are a small but mighty force of 4. So we have Francisco who helps us keep the lights on by paying the bills. Jess is our Homeland Security representative, and then Sabrina works on mitigation. And we all help each other out and support one another in our mission because there's only 4 of us. We are accredited, and I just throw this in here because we're super proud of it. It took a lot of work, but it says that we do what we say we're doing at a national standard level. And when we were accredited in 2020, we're going for it again this year for our 3rd one. We're one of only 32 counties in the nation to have twice accreditation. So we're very, very proud of that. This is where our home away from home, our regional emergency operations center. We're co-located with dispatch for Washoe County Sheriff's Office and Reno. They're upstairs, we're downstairs. But this is where everybody comes together from all different fields to support the community if something becomes overwhelming or we think it could potentially become overwhelming for our responders in the field. This is where we get together and hang out. All right, we have 13 hazards, lucky number 13, identified in our area. We work through this every 5 years in our hazard mitigation plan. We look at our hazards and say, are these still the same? Have they changed? What's changed? And then we update it. So this is in no particular order. I think sometimes we throw it in there alphabetically, but there's just 13. Go ahead, Alex. So we, in emergency management, work with our partners through prevention, stopping things, usually that's law enforcement related, mitigation, which is lessening or eliminating the impact of one of those hazards, preparedness, kind of what we're doing right now, and then response and recovery. And it's a wheel, but we're doing different parts of that at all times for all 13 of those hazards. And we do that by planning, organizing, getting equipment, training, and doing exercises. Not, like burpees and push-ups, but by testing our plans through those type of exercises. All right, and every year we look at our responses that we participated in, our exercises that we did, and what are our gaps? What are things that we need to improve on? And then we look at those gaps and we say, these are going to be our priorities. So for us, it's operational coordination. How do we work together? Operational communication. How do we talk to one another? Mass care services, so that's sheltering, feeding, community resilience. How do we make our community better able to withstand something that happens? And then fatality management. And that's really more of the medical examiner's wheelhouse, but we'll support her in that. Okay, sorry for the eye test, but these are our community lifelines, and I put this up here so that you can see. You know, how we organize to see what is the status of everything. So, for example, we're just talking about water, so we would have, well, this isn't fire hydrants, but under water systems, which is something that FEMA added as an 8th lifeline, potable water infrastructure, and then wastewater management. So we have our partners from both of those sectors at the table. And if something has minimal impact, that circle at the top will turn green. Moderate, yellow, significant, red. And so in a disaster like Davis fire, we were able to communicate with the public and with our elected officials and with our partners using this system of circles and colors. So really basic, but it gets the message across. All right, so talk a little bit about response outs if you could. So typically, this is just typically when something happens, the incident occurs, a threat to the population is determined, and a request, if needed for an evacuation alert, comes into our office. We have a 24/7 phone line with backup numbers in place, but a request will come in to send an evacuation alert. We'll confirm the area being evacuated and that the chosen evacuation site is safe. And then we activate our emergency shelter council, which is we really just ping them and say, hey, this is happening, everybody gets stood up, and then the alert is sent. So what is included in an alert is the type of threat you need to know, right? Is it a wildfire? Is it an active assailant in your area? Is it a hazmat incident? The area being evacuated or being asked to shelter in place, where to go, what to do, and how to find information. So we, even since Davis fire, which feels like it just happened, right? We switched our alerting tool. So we were using a different tool. Now we're using Rave Smart 911. If you want to scan that little QR code with your camera and sign up in Smart 911, I'll talk to you a little bit about why that's a good idea in a second. But it allows us to draw a polygon on the map and send out messaging through every means available to us technologically. If I could have carrier pigeons coming straight to your house, I would. But we use landlines, cell phones, social media, email, TV, absolutely. The want is the emergency alert system that goes out on radio and TV. And that's all we have. So signing up for this tool, you can also be notified in the app. But what we really love about this is that if you have something, well, you can put all your household detail in there. So, for example, you know, if my dad was living with me and he had COPD and he needed a little bit more time to get around, I could put that in. And so considering he has an access and functional need. So when an alert is being sent, there's an evacuation. If I'm outside of the evacuation area, I'm still gonna get an alert because it takes me extra time to get him out. So we'll run that report as part of sending out our alert to a wider area and then send that saying, do you need help? Can you get out? Leave now if you need extra time. And so that's something we've been looking for over a decade, was how do we alert our community members who need extra time to evacuate, but aren't necessarily in the evacuation area? And how do we find out if they need help? And so this tool allows us to do that. We've got to sign up. Yep, so we're also using Perimeter Map. If you haven't visited that yet, please do. Save it under your favorites on your phone, but perimetermap.com is the website. You do not need an app. You don't. James and I do. So there's a back end to it where first responders are able to communicate to emergency management, things on the map that we need to know, but not necessarily the public, like where's the incident command post, where's staging happening, that kind of stuff. But basically what happens is that someone in the field, a first responder, a firefighter, is going to draw on the map, the evacuation area, potentially the perimeter of a fire. If there's a car accident, somebody ran over a stop sign, or if there's a preferred route of evacuation, that'll be on there. If there's a shelter. I think a few weeks ago, we had sandbag locations on that map as well, and it's active all the time. So in 2023, the county piloted this project. We heard about this, this platform, and we said we want it, the whole state should have it, but let's start with these 4 partners. So we did Carson, Washoe, Douglas, and Story County. This year, we're adding Lyon, Elko, Humboldt, Pershing, and Nye counties. Yeah, so, and then next year we'll add White Pine and Lincoln, and I think part of Clark. At some point, we'll hand it over to the state to run the statewide program, but in the meantime, we'll just keep on rocking. What we love about it is that we can do pre-planning. We use this during the balloon races where we had road closures pre-built into the map, and then we just turn them on and off every single day at a specific time. It allows for real-time collaboration. So if James puts something on the map, I see it immediately. Now I have to publish it for you to see it. But for us to communicate, it's instant. Whereas if we use our old school GIS mapping, people who we love, it took way longer. So we didn't have that immediate communication, and then we can just as easily immediately inform the public. And it takes super low connectivity. So one of the things that I experienced living in Northern Virginia during 9/11 was, and I was just talking to someone about this yesterday, I could call California, but I couldn't call down the street because there was no local cell phone availability, but we could tweet. And back then, tweeting wasn't popular. Twitter became popular because of that, because it took such low connectivity to send a message. So emergency management actually started saying, hey, get a Twitter account, because this is how we're going to communicate with you in the future if there's something, because it takes such small connectivity. We do still post on social media, but this is much more reliable because the information is coming from us. So it takes very low connectivity. It worked during Davis Fire. We were able to get information from first responders in the field, update the map multiple times, and then share that information with the public. It could be dropped into our alerting system. It stands alone as a web address, and then we can also put it in GIS tools if we need to. So actually, before I talk about MassCare, I'll say that, so during the LA fires, they used a different application, and we had them pulled up side by side. Now, Perimeter was directing people to the other application so they could have appropriate information, but we had them pulled up side by side and felt very validated in our choice for Perimeter as a partner, because we always look for, how are people able to digest the information presented to them on this map? And I think comparatively, Perimeter did a much better job. So I felt good about that. But anyway, moving on, MassCare, I talked about a little bit as one of our priorities: sheltering, feeding, hygiene, medical support, pets, livestock. And then there's also a security issue with each one of those things. So we focus on that as supporting our community. Now, one of the things we changed last year was we identified libraries as temporary evacuation points. Our area is so resilient and connected and takes care of one another. And so very often we don't need a shelter because we all have places to go. And as someone who used to work for the Red Cross and has slept in a shelter, you don't want to. So make sure you have those plans in place on where are you going to go if something happens and you have to leave your home. But yeah, we very rarely have to open up a shelter, but having a place where people can come for information that's comfortable and hospitable, which is libraries already, can we have the keys? Because it's a Washoe County facility, makes it much easier for us, and then we're able to make those decisions more quickly and share that information in the alerts that we send out. Okay, so we're doing some additional stuff. Keep going. We made a video to help with the decision making. It shows again those steps for alerting. The video is on our website in English and Spanish, and it has sign language as well. It helps people understand what they'll see. So this video came out of a cab that I went to in Warm Springs. Where the people were saying, I don't know who's gonna be knocking at my door. I'm not leaving my house just because somebody told me to. What do they look like? What do I like? What can I expect? And so we thought putting together a video to help with expectations might help community members make the decision. Should I leave? Should I not leave? Is it safe to do so? Do I know who's knocking on my door? Yeah, so whatever can help with that decision making to actually leave when asked to do so. And then we have roadmap to resilience. So this is a multi-year project that we're working on. We created the dashboard of regional agencies, or DORA, as we lovingly call her. It's tabs of maps. So on the first tab, perimeter, and we're working to have the alerts on a sidebar next to that. But you can also see the Waze map. If you're unfamiliar with Waze, it shows you like road closures, accidents, police, if you don't want to get pulled over, you're not here, right? That's on there usually, NV Energy outages, which I heard we were talking about last night, that's on there. Wind mapping, and then we added something again late last year that is roadside or fuels mitigation. So what are our fire agencies doing to reduce fuels like shrubs and brush? So to mitigate that fire risk in our neighborhoods, that's on there as well, and it pulls from multiple agencies, so Truckee Meadows, North Lake Tahoe, Reno Sparks, NDF, all onto one map. And then, so another part of that is I started, it doesn't really affect this area so much, but the Tahoe Basin Emergency Managers Group. So when Caldor and Dixie fires happened, I didn't know who my partners were across the state line. I did in the town of Truckee, but not at the county level, and it made it really difficult to coordinate. So we started that group. We now train together. We share plans. We are meeting on Monday. So we meet regularly, and it just helps us support one another because disasters don't know jurisdictional boundaries, right? It'd be great if they did and they just stopped at the line, but they don't. So we keep meeting. And then we started an events working group. So we'll stand up an events operations center, which has fire, law enforcement, dispatch, a decision maker from the event, emergency management, weather service, sometimes UNR is in there. But we stood this up for Red, White, Tahoe Blue was our first one, and the second one was the balloon races. And it just makes communication that much faster because we're all in the same room. So a really great example would be at the balloon races, a call came into dispatch for trauma. And so they were gonna send an engine and an ambulance, pull that from some other area, stop the balloon races event because this trauma call came in. But because we were there in the room and we all were able to share information immediately, we said, hey, somebody lost a fingernail. Please don't send all this stuff. Yes, appropriately called in as trauma because it is trauma to the finger, but we solved this with a Band-Aid. So please keep those resources where they need to be. But what this came out of was, and I'll be going there next week, is South by Southwest in the city of Austin. So this events operations center up in 2014, and then they had a car through a crowd, like we saw with New Orleans. And so they were able to communicate to the people in that area via alerting that much faster. They have pre-canned messages ready to go out in English and Spanish, hashtags and all the stuff. But all of that coordination is happening so much faster because they're all in a room together. And that's our plan. So we also, and this is very exciting. I've been asking for so long, it's been on my wish list to Santa, I must have been good or something, but to do an evacuation study for the county. It's very expensive, and so that was our hang up. We had a private donor come through in the past 2 weeks, and we accepted at the board last week, donation that will pay for an evacuation study of the county, not just the county, but Reno and Sparks as well. So we were able to negotiate the inclusion of the cities into that study. And so it's really gonna look at, there's two parts, there's evacuation and fire modeling software. And then there's the analysis part where they look at, you know, cell phone data and population influxes because of events. And they look at bottlenecks and different areas, and they show us our top areas of concern, and they make recommendations for how we can overcome that, which I think will be applicable everywhere. So there will be a public portion of the study where we ask for your concerns and your input, and we document that in an annex of the plan. We've talked to other jurisdictions who have done this, and they said that the public input part has been the most beneficial. Because being able to categorize for a community collective concerns and then address those or seek grant funding to address those has been really helpful. So if you're able to think of those and have those are ready to submit when the time comes, it will be this year, and we'll let you know when that is. But yeah, I'm very excited about the evacuation study. So that's part one, and then the second part will be to update our plans, and third part, implement the recommendations made in the study. All right. I swear I'm wrapping up fast, but last part is our mitigation plan and program. I am a mitigation nerd, and so I love building this program. We built it in the last year. You could go back one, Alex, to the map. So Sabrina created this map. We have a plan, mitigation plan, that we update every 5 years, and it has actions for each one of those 13 hazards that I showed you at the beginning. What are we gonna do to lessen or eliminate the risk of those hazards? And so there's like 142 action items for all the jurisdictions in our region. That includes the tribes. And every 5 years, we would look at it and go, how'd it go? Did you fix that bridge? Did you mitigate those fuels? And then we would update it in the plan. But that's not a program, right? So that's just leaving people out to do their thing, instead of pushing things forward to completion and actually supporting our partners and making these things happen. So we started by mapping them all by type, by those 13 hazards, and then by jurisdiction, who owns these, so that we could say, hey, you know, go in, look at your items, and then report out quarterly on like, what do you need to make this happen? Or is it in progress? And so then every 5 years, we already have that information. It's less work on our part, but then we're connecting resources like grants and stuff with our action items because we already know about them and we're keeping a pulse on it. Excuse me. So some of the things that you'll see, we heard about the green waste. It was very sad to hear that about the spring. However, some of the things that happen on the right side is NV Energy's pole scrubbing that they do. We have mitigation goats at county parks. City of Reno has them. There's a great video about the goats. They're locally owned, and they live in Smith Valley. I love them so much. But then there's green waste days. And then on the left is North Lake Tahoe has a chipper that they'll cut out to your house. Every jurisdiction has a different program, fire jurisdiction. And so one of the things that we're working on is making that equitable. So it's the same for everyone. I live in the city of Reno, and my house was surrounded by junipers when I moved in. It took me 3 years to rip them out. Yeah, and they're so flammable. But because I physically ripped them out and had a pickup truck to take them to green waste days, I was able to make my property safer. But if you cannot do it yourself and you don't have a pickup or the time to go to something like green waste days, then are you just not able to make your house safer? And so that's something that we want to overcome. We want to offer a program to everyone, similar to the one that Chief Moore did with yard cleanups, but for green waste. Instead of trash, I think. out. And that's it. That's it for my portion of the program. I'm sure you all have questions. Happy to hear them.
I don't know about questions. You did such a thorough job.
Oh, thank you.
You can keep that, Mark Newman for the record. I've been through numerous different CAB meetings over the last few years. One of the things that I heard about with the Davis fire was when it first started, they would go to look for what evacuation route. And then there were big traffic jams at lights where they couldn't get out, so they'd go this way and actually head themselves right into the fire. We talked about this before at other different meetings, that when these things happen, there's gotta be some coordination to set up the lights so that you're not sitting in a red light by the other intersection, everybody's trying to get out in green lights. There's gotta be some other evacuation routes, like here in the valley. Sun Valley to the south is not the only exit. You can go down other different directions to get out. But somebody that just moved here doesn't know any difference. But if you go to your webpage, just like we showed on the map, are you gonna update that for this new program coming up?
Yeah,
So where people will know, I live here, the fire's here, go this way.
Yeah, perimeter map will have,
Yes.
evacuation routes. And so one of the things that came out of Davis Fire was that we needed to tie in more closely with law enforcement to say, hey, if there's a traffic issue, it needs to be dropped on the map. Because that's why we have it, right? So that we're not turning the wrong direction to avoid a traffic light or something like that. And that's another thing that we can drop on the map as well. So having NV Energy at the table to say, well, there's no more energy to these lights and their backup power isn't working. And so that needs to be integrated into the map as well. I think with Davis Fire, law enforcement, I wish they were here because they do such a great job of speaking to this. And I don't want to put words in their mouth by any means, but they were really focused on evacuating the people near the flames. And so knocking on doors. Because they want to make sure nobody missed the alert that went out, because not everybody gets it. So that's what they were focused on, which then they had to then backfill for traffic management. But the primary issue was letting people know they needed to leave to begin with. And so they have their CERT teams that help with traffic management as well. But again, those are volunteers. And, they live their lives. So when they get the call, whether or not they're in town or available or what's going on, dictates whether they can show up to then volunteer to do the traffic management, right? So definitely tightening up those processes, but that is our goal, is to be able to have all that information on the map for you, so that you can make those decisions. Left or right.
And one other thing, for your evergreens, I know through the senior programs that there certain will come out, and the Sun Valley General Improvement District gives away free dump days along with waste management. So literally you could take 5 truckloads and not cost you a thing. And there are things for senior programs to help the seniors to remove the evergreens to save on their insurance for firefighting. And one last thing, the Older Americans Month is coming up. It would be great if you could set up with Alexandra to get a hold of Abby in the seniors division and maybe have a booth there for the main opening day.
Yeah, is that Abby Vadalato?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Carol Burns for the record. I don't need that, I don't think. I would like to listen to help with the road department. I have called them over and over and over regarding the right of way, which Washoe County is responsible for. They do not clean out the weeds, not just the ditches, but along their right of way. And I get, oh, no, it's okay, First Avenue is fine, and they always have an excuse that they don't need to do it. And it was my understanding always that the county is responsible for the right of ways and that they should keep them clean. They're a fire hazard.
Yeah.
They start to burn, your homes are gonna burn.
Carol, have you ever spoken with Brett Taylor from Truckee Meadows Fire?
I think so.
I'll give you his email.
Okay.
before we leave, but yeah, we went out and looked at, we had a similar call come in last week and went out and looked at some electrical boxes. Which is a field trip for me, so I love doing that stuff, so thank you for letting me know. But we were already scheduled to talk to Brett, and so we hopped on a call actually as we were driving back, and he was like, oh yeah, that's already planned for next week. We're like, great. Can you let this lady know? And he's on it, so I'd love to connect you with Brett.
Yeah, we need to get them cleaned up.
Job.
It's gonna be a hot summer and there's gonna be fires.
It is, there's,
We burn, sparks is gonna burn.
yeah,
Because embers, like what you saw in LA,
oh,
they're
sure.
gonna go to.
Or even
fires.
Sullivan Fire, right?
Yeah, so.
So, there is not a lot of snow on Peabody, you guys have looked up there, which is usually a pretty good indicator of how our fire season's gonna go, so. If you need help, with defensible space at your home, let us know, we'll connect you with the right resources to make that. Carmen Ortiz for the record.
Kelly, I just wanted to thank you so much for being persistent in requesting that evacuation study. Because if you ever are on 395, like say coming from Lemon Valley to Reno, okay, anytime between say 3 and 6, it looks like there is a mass evacuation happening. Like cars just keep coming from Reno and it's stopped and it's like every single day, it's a mass evacuation. So thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, our office is off Far and Dandini, so, we have a general rule that if we leave in the afternoon, we'll just work from home. We're not coming back. It's impossible. Thank you.
I had a question. Ted Barrett for the record. Watch Duty is a major app that's being used.
Yeah.
Especially with fires. And are they mirroring information that they're getting from you, or how is their program
So
working?
they pull in information from Perimeter Map. I will say the issue we had with them in Davis Fire was that they're using language from Oregon that we don't use here in Nevada. And when I talked to them about it, and asked them to take it down, they said no. Because that is the language that they use. And I said, okay, well, in Nevada, we understand that words are really important, especially in evacuation. And so, I actually met with the Nevada County Emergency Managers and the State of Nevada Emergency Manager 2 weeks ago to talk about this very thing. Because we had incidents, there was a fire down by Mono Lake, where there was a campground right on the border. A lot of people from California staying at the campground, they didn't get the same language that they get in California. They didn't leave. And then, then they're out there saying like, hey, we didn't know we had to leave. And we're like, well, we said evacuate now. Those are the words, but they were waiting for California terminology. And so what you'll see coming out in the next year from our community is that we will be switching to the ready, set, go model of being ready, then get set, which for us, it mirrors the same colors that we were using in Perimeter before of potential evacuation area and evacuation area, except it'll say set and then go instead. So that's the language that the fire chiefs suggested that we mirror, and it goes along with what Watch Duty was saying, but still doesn't really cover some language, which is they'll say like evacuation level 1 or evacuation level 2. That means nothing to me. It should mean nothing to you. So I'm letting you know now. Don't pay attention to that part. But if you go to Perimeter Map, it won't have that.
Perimeter Map has the right language.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much.
Now we can make a thing.
Yeah, you're ready, go ahead, you got the mic.
See you later.
So, yeah, I don't want to get off topic, but just to tell you about the language, I'm born in California, okay? You have speed bumps, but in California, you have speed bumps, speed cushions, and speed pebbles.
And
And- Yeah, and so their terminology for things is kind of strange and confusing. And since I'm from California, I'm aware of that. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. But yeah, the first time I saw the terminology, I went, what the? Okay, on to the more important thing, we're gonna go to regional transportation, item number 8, commission with Paul Nelson. Here you go, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be back, everyone. See, it's hard to believe it's already been a month since I was here last time. My name is Paul Nelson. I'm the Government Affairs Officer of the Regional Transportation Commission. And this time of the year, we like to come out to all the different cabs and all the different maps and just talk to everyone about the latest that we're doing in every neighborhood and every community. It's valuable for us because we can hear from you guys to find out what's important to you, but also it gives you guys a heads up about what might be coming down the road. Yeah, that's something happening with technology. So this presentation is for some of you. I know a lot of you come to all these meetings. Some of it's review, some of it's an update, and some of it's new stuff that we're going to be showing you guys today. Is it ready?
I'm just gonna scroll, it's not allowing me to do it. Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay, next slide. All right, so who we are at RTC, we've got a board of commissioners, and it's made up of 5 electeds. We've got 2 Washoe County commissioners, 2 City of Reno council members, and 1 from the city of Sparks. Alexis Hill is our chair, Deborah Reese is our vice chair. Tracy Larkin Thomason is the director of NDOT, and she sits on the board as an ex officio, and then Bill Thomas is our executive director. Next. So our mission at RTC is building a better community through quality transportation. And that's really what we aim to do every day. Really, transportation is a quality of life issue, whether it's our roadways, our transit, or how we plan for our transportation system. And those are the 3 core functions that we have: metropolitan planning, engineering and construction, and public transportation. So starting with public transportation, our fixed route transit is known as RTC Ride. It's the backbone of our transit system. And during the last 12 months, we've given more than 5.65 million trips. 60% of those are work trips. And that tells you just how important our transit system is for people that need to get to and from work so that they can earn a paycheck. We've also had 30 straight months of ridership growth, which we're really happy about, because when you think about our transit system, it's going to cost us the same no matter what to run our buses. The more people that are on them, we're getting more bang for our buck. So with our fleet, we're 100% sustainable. About a third of them are all electric. About 2/3 are diesel electric hybrid. And then we've got 2 hydrogen fuel cell buses that we're still getting ready to put into service. 6 more of those are on order. We should have those in the next few months. We're also working on our permanent fueling facility. And that's temporary. For now, we're planning on putting that at Sutro Street. We're still working on that though. Thanks. So out here in Sun Valley, Route 5 is the bus route that comes out here. This is our 4th busiest non-BRT bus route. And if you consider the 2 Virginia Street buses and the 2 4th and Prater buses, this is actually the 2nd busiest bus route that we have in the entire region. So in January, our latest numbers, we had more than 31,000 trips. During the last 12 months, more than 362,000 trips. So it's a very popular route, and a lot of the people that use that are trying to get to work. So I mentioned the BRT, the Bus Rapid Transit. This is one of our most important systems. This is our poor man's light rail, basically. Virginia line and Lincoln line. So we've got the 2 of them. We've got the big bus stations along those routes. The Virginia line is 978,000 rides just in the last year. Lincoln line, 454,000 rides in the last year. And the nice thing about this route is the frequency. Every 10 minutes, there's going to be a bus there to pick you up. So if you miss one, 10 minutes later, you can get on the next one. So really good complement to our ride system is microtransit. We call it Flex Ride. It's our on-demand curb-to-curb service, a lot like Uber and Lyft, where if you live in one of these 4 zones, Sparks, North Valleys, Somerset, Verdi, South Meadows, you live in one of those zones, you can call, they'll be there to pick you up in about 20 minutes or so, give or take, and they'll take you within that zone or take you to a fixed route. The next one I'll show you is the maps that we've got for those areas. So those are the 4 zones. Just for instance, if you look at that left map, Spanish Springs, and say you're up on the north part of Spanish Springs and you need to get to Reed High School, you can call Flex Ride and they'll take you there. If you want to get down farther into Sparks or farther into Reno, they'll drop you off at a bus stop and then you can get on the fixed route. And that doesn't cost anything extra. It's $2.50 a ride or $3 for a day pass. A couple of really good programs that have been pretty successful are these two, Senior Ride Taxi Bucks program. This is a card that if you're 60 years old, if you're a veteran, or if you're a person with a disability, you can apply for this card, and every month it'll auto load $60 onto your card, and you can use that until it's gone for a taxi or for an Uber or a Lyft. It does expire, so it doesn't roll over, but you do get that $60 every month. The van pool program is another important program because it really does take a lot of pressure off of our roads, a lot of that congestion. We have, it's a carpool service between 5 and 15 people that live in the same area, work in the same area. We have a fleet of 340 vans, and we're top 10 in the nation when it comes to this. Right now, we're right around number 6. And that's because we've got so many people that live in Reno Sparks, Sun Valley, and the surrounding areas that have to travel long distances for work, whether that's the top of Reno Industrial Center, Susanville, Lake Tahoe, Carson City. So it makes a lot of sense here. And I think that's why it's been so successful. In 2024, this program alone took 20 million miles off of our roadways, just in our region. So next steps for public transportation is we're trying to go more cashless because more and fewer people are carrying cash now. They have their credit card, their Apple Pay, Venmo, all that stuff. So we're going to be installing these tap and pays on all of our buses. So when you get on, you can either have your bus pass that you've already got a prepaid card and you can tap that, or you can use your debit or credit card and tap it on there. Another thing that we're looking at doing is with our Flex Ride and Access. So Access is our paratransit service. It's the exact same bus. They're just painted different. They're used for different reasons. But let's say somebody in, let's just say South Meadows they have an Access ride and they get dropped off. Meanwhile, somebody calls for a Flex Ride in that same zone. Well, if that Access bus isn't busy, we can use that as a Flex Ride. So it's just more efficient rather than sending a new Flex Ride all the way down to South Meadows. There's already one there and it's not used for Access at the moment. So they can kind of intertwine those two. So they'll upgrade the software so that they can use Flex Ride and Access at the same time when it's necessary. So planning, that's another one of our functions. So just last week, our Board of Commissioners approved the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan update. So this is our long-term transportation plan where we look 25 years into the future. We look at how we want our roads to be, how we want our bicycle and sidewalk infrastructure to be, our air quality, environmental things. We look at all the different things that go into transportation that goes into this document. Every project that we do starts in this document. So there might be something that's kind of low priority right now. We're looking maybe 20 years down the road, but eventually that'll rise to the top. And that's how we get our projects going. We also have what we call the RTIP, the Regional Transportation Implementation Program plan. And that's our 5-year plan. So this document eventually goes into that 5-year plan, and then we get the ball rolling. Next. So one of the things that that recently came out of RTP is the Active Transportation Plan. So we went and from that plan, we came up with the Neighborhood Network Plan. So what we're doing with this is we're looking at 12 different neighborhoods throughout the entire region. So we're looking at each individual neighborhood to find out where we can make improvements for pedestrian and bicycle facilities. So we went on a scoring system. I don't know exactly how the scoring works, but Sun Valley was number 3 on the scoring list out of the 12 neighborhoods. So number 9 ended up being the top area that needed the most work. And we already went and had a couple of community meetings about that. Right now we're in the middle of doing I think it's number 7, which is Central Sparks. And as soon as we're done with that one, we just had a meeting last Saturday about that neighborhood network. And then next one, we're gonna be coming out here to Sun Valley and working on how we can improve the bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure out here. And that could be anything from sidewalks and bike paths to multi-use paths, traffic signals, or crosswalks, things like that. Everything that can make things safer and more comfortable for people that wanna use transportation that's not a car. Next. So planning, some previously completed planning efforts. We came out and we did the Sun Valley Corridor report. I think this was in 2015. And you can see what came out of that was improving the access, safety, and community pride, really, spruce up the main drag, Sun Valley Boulevard, spruce things up. Really make it more of an inviting area for everyone. New sidewalk improvements and pedestrian crossing improvements. So we really want to improve the safety and everything that goes along with transportation out here. Next. So engineering, just so you can see here, 2024, the fiscal year, we had an investment of more than $81 million in our road projects. And that has a direct impact on the community because that provided 2,600 direct jobs. So some of the programs that we have, one of the biggest and most important ones we have is the pavement preservation program, keeping our good roads good. It's a lot cheaper for us to maintain our roads than it is to let them crumble and then replace them. It costs 10 times more if we let that happen. So the pictures you can see right here, preventive maintenance, that's the cheapest way to do it. That's your crack seals, your patching, and your slurry seals. If you look at those pictures right there, that's Sparks Boulevard over at Los Altos, and you can see the before and after. This is a very low cost way of keeping our roads good. That's preventive maintenance. The next one's corrective maintenance, and that's where you'll see us take the top layer of pavement off and then put a new layer down. And then finally, the rehabilitation. And that's where the roadway has really reached the end of its life, but the materials in the road are still good. So we take that base in the road and we reuse those materials and rebuild the road. Next. Three other ones that we've got: traffic signal modifications, intelligent transportation systems, and traffic engineering. These are programs that we have in place to really keep traffic moving in an efficient way, even if there's capacity issues. So if you think about like traffic signal modifications, timing the lights, intelligent transportation systems, that's connecting these stoplights so that they can communicate with each other and keep traffic flowing without having to stop at every red light. And then traffic engineering. And I think Amanda can talk a little bit more about that. I think you guys all remember my friend Amanda Caligari. She's one of our transportation, she's one of our engineering managers, and she can answer a bunch of technical questions once we're done. Next. So some recently completed projects. So this is just outside of Sun Valley, but Selby Drive rehabilitation. We did this last year. Completed it. This was one of those rehabilitation jobs where it was time to really reuse those materials and make a new road. We also did some curb and gutter improvements there. Next. This is something that is new. I mentioned the signals talking to each other. This is a pilot project, the Sparks Intelligent Corridors. So we put in fiber. This is kind of one of those things where there's a third-party data source where it takes cellular data of all the traffic. Everyone who's driving down there, it takes that data and it communicates with the traffic signals. And if it notices that the commute is taking longer than it should, those traffic signals will automatically adjust so that the cars will flow faster through that. We're learning about this. It's kind of a cool thing. Usually if you think the traffic's going slow, it's because there's either a crash or just a lot of traffic or construction, but it also slows down when there's snowstorms. So that's something that we learned just a couple of weeks ago with that last snowstorm, was that it wasn't really a traffic issue, it was a weather issue. So it's kind of, we're learning a lot with this new system. And then eventually what this could also do is, an app. It could communicate with your phone and let drivers know real time. If there's a crash or construction, you can take an alternate route and avoid that slowdown altogether, kind of like the Waze app. So some upcoming street and highway projects. This is the big one. This is the one that I talked to you guys about last month. I've got some bad news and good news about this one. So I'll start with the bad news. The Protect grant that we talked to you guys about last month, and we appreciate the letter of support that you guys signed. We appreciate Teresa, Mark, and Carol, you guys talked to us, gave your testimonials for this application. 2 weeks before this was due, the Trump administration paused the grant. So the good news is we're hoping that once they do their review, they'll put that back out there. So we're still hoping that there's a chance that we can put in for this $40 million grant. And if not, we'll find another grant to apply for. So we're still moving forward with this project. We just got to nail down the funding for it. We're hoping to get this thing started in 2027. As you guys know, this is going to go from Scottsdale Road all the way up to Seventh Avenue. And drainage is the biggest cost of this project, but we're gonna put in bicycle facilities, sidewalks, improvements to our transit system. We're gonna make this road better for everyone that uses it. Right now, there's really not a good place for people to walk and ride their bikes on there. There's more schools out here now. So we see a lot of students walking, you know, especially with Hug High School, walking on the sides of the roads. So we're really excited about this project. Once we have all the funding down, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that $40 million will come to us eventually for the Protect Grant. And then we can get on the road with this in 2027, we hope. Some other upcoming street and highway projects. So you guys all that drive Highland Ranch know the pain that comes with it. So Five Ridges is planning on doing the widening from Five Ridges to the intersection at Pyramid Highway. RTC is gonna go from Five Ridges all the way to Sun Valley Boulevard and widen that from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. That is planned for 2028. So we know that there's a lot more traffic out there and there's a lot of problems with that intersection of Pyramid Highway. So the next slide will show kind of what we're doing there. So as you know, NDOT is doing the Pyramid Highway phase 1 right now. There's 6 phases all together with that. The next one we're focusing on is this intersection because we do see all the backup. I took that picture just a couple weeks ago, and while I was out there, you know, we hear about it all the time. Cars, they want to turn right on the Pyramid Highway, but they can't get there because traffic's backed up, so they just go on, they use that dirt area next to the road. That was happening while I was out there too. So that's one of the things that we're.
First tickets of $500 a ticket for each one.
And you know what, I don't blame them, I would do the same thing, you know, if I'm stuck behind, you know, 7 different traffic.
Paul, can I add something? Amanda Caligari, I'm RTC engineering manager for the record. The developer of Five Ridges is going to be required to make updates to this intersection to improve the capacity and operation. That's actually going to take place this spring. So this project that Paul's talking about is coming down the road. It's an interchange project that will come when likely the connector is built. The interchange alone, the cost of it is looking to be like $120 million. Again, we don't have $120 million laying around. But there will be interim improvements and operational improvements made by the developer at this intersection when they widen.
No questions for you. And improving this intersection is really a big priority for us. Next. Another big one, you know, this isn't a direct impact for Sun Valley, but it's really a regional impact. We all see the issues that happen with all of the people that work out at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. So we're looking at alternate routes to get people out there. And there's people that work out there from all over, you know, North Reno, the North Valley, South Reno, Sun Valley, Spanish Springs. Everyone that drives out there, we've seen what that's doing to Interstate 80. NDOT does have a plan to widen that highway from 4 lanes to 6 lanes, but we know that there needs to be alternate routes. So there's a couple of things we're looking at. One of them is a road that would connect La Posada in Spanish Springs down to USA Parkway. Another route could be South Meadows Parkway that would connect the USA Parkway. And if you look down there at the bottom, I have that tolling option for AB 61. On Tuesday, that bill went before the Growth and Infrastructure Committee down at the legislature. This is one of the, just kind of leaving no stone unturned. It's a very expensive road. If connecting La Posada to USA Parkway is a very expensive road that we don't have the money for. So this would give, right now it's illegal in Nevada to have a toll road. This would give permission to at least look into it. You know, if they approve the bill, doesn't mean we're gonna go out and build a toll road, but we can study it. There's no reason to spend taxpayer money on a study you can't build anyway. So that's one of the options we're looking at. Otherwise, we're gonna have to look at possibly, you know, some big money federal grants to build a roadway. There's also some work that needs to go with getting a BLM easement or a land bill in order to build that road. The other thing that we're looking at is commuter rail. We're kicking off a feasibility study to see if it is feasible to run a train between Reno and Sparks and USA Parkway to get people to and from work. And we will have to work with Union Pacific because it would be using their rails. We can see how many trains we could possibly use each day. That would take a lot of traffic off of Interstate 80 as well. So we're looking at all kinds of different options to try to relieve that that traffic pressure and congestion. That's a big quality of life one. You know, one of the things that Mayor Lawson talked about when he was presenting that bill was there's some people that work out there at Trick and they can't get childcare in Reno and Sparks because they don't know when they're gonna get off work, because if there's a crash, it might take them 5 hours to get home. So we know that we need to make some changes and make some improvements, give people other options. Next. So revenues. If you look there, we've got our revenues this year, $253 million for fiscal 25. Fuel tax is 42% of that. Sales tax is 18%. We do get some federal funding, both in formula funds, that is automatic funding that comes from the feds, and then also discretionary funding that we apply for. Passenger fees, a little bit from there. We get a little bit of money from NDOT, and then we get some other revenues, kind of like RIF. So like developers, that every time they build a development, they'll pay right around roughly $5,000 per unit that goes towards infrastructure improvements. And then expenditures. So in fiscal year 25, we're spending about $284 million. Almost a third of that goes to operating our transit, and our sales tax goes strictly towards the transit. So the transit is operated with sales tax. The fuel tax goes strictly towards our road projects. So the new roadway projects, that's almost, that's more than 28%. The preservation of multimodal, the ones that I was talking about, you know, keeping the good roads good, that's about almost 30%. And then our debt service, we have a little bit of debt we're paying off, and then our metropolitan planning organization and operations, that costs about 1.6%. And with that, we'll take some questions. Come on up, Amanda.
I'll wait till last.
Go ahead, Teresa. Okay, Teresa Antisdale, for the record. I'm super excited because I think I'm connecting some dots here. And I thank you for speaking. So the next time I see when I get on 395 southbound at Clear Acre and those metering lights are like randomly not working from one day to the next, I can call that 311 number to report it. And then they'll get that over to you guys, right?
So, actually, no. So it's the roadways in Sun Valley and in this, well, throughout all of Washoe County, are owned by different jurisdictions. So for example, Sun Valley Boulevard is actually owned by NDOT. And it's a state road, and freeways or any on or off ramps that have metering systems, that is also NDOT. So I can help you get in contact with them if you don't have.
Need an NDOT number.
Yeah.
It was working for months and then suddenly it's just, and it wasn't even, it was just blank.
Yeah.
And so I didn't spend any time trying to research it because I was just gonna set a good example for my 15-and-a-half-year-old permitted drivers and just be patient, but the numbnuts next to me are just cutting right in front of me because, oh, there's no light to come, but they can't.
Both red almonds.
Yeah, and so so RTC, the keeping the good roads good, we keep the regional roads good. So it's kind of the in between a freeway or a highway and a major business center or shopping centers, schools, things like that. So Highland Ranch is a regional road, which is why we're widening it. It's just when it turns into Sun Valley Boulevard, it does become NDOT's roadway. But one of the things that we, so RTC, we know that this is a big hole in the community. And improvements have been lacking for a long time. NDOT, right, they have priorities all over the state. RTC is very focused on bringing funding and improvements just to Washoe County. So that is why we are taking the lead on the Sun Valley Boulevard Improvement Project Phase 2 and trying to bring all the money we can out of the state. And they've actually, they also committed to helping fund the project alongside other federal funds that we get. And hopefully, no, I'm not gonna say hopefully, when we get those funds, and we do those improvements, we're in discussions with Washoe County, to get the road relinquished from NDOT to Washoe County, which at that point, it will be a regional road and we'll be maintaining it on a consistent basis.
I got one quick comment first. Mark Newman, for the record, I'm part of the board as well. we're at 12 o'clock. We only get this room from 10 to noon. Is there any chance, I know you guys gave up your whole Saturday. Is there another chance that maybe we can get them where it's not so many people on the agenda? For you to come back and answer a bunch of our questions, because everybody in this room has a lot of questions. And you'll be here for another hour. We don't have the time.
I have a quick one. Go ahead.
I have a quick one. That's what I'm saying. We all have.
You want a rapid fire and I'll rapid fire back.
Where Clear Acre dumps onto Karen.
And
We have not changed those configurations. People are not using the Clear Acre anymore to get on the freeway. And those.
Oh, that's right. So
you
the
just sit there and there's nobody turning, go south anymore.
At 4:30 in the morning.
You guys, can we make sure that one person is speaking at a time for the record, please?
Ellen Chapin.
Thank you.
So Clear Acre and McCarran, so Sun Valley all the way down through Clear Acre to McCarran is NDOT. NDOT is also NDOT's jurisdiction. We are helping them with doing some preliminary studies of the McCarran loop to understand.
Just put it back to where the original configuration was before construction routed it onto Clear Acre. Yeah. Just go back to where it was working fine.
I had to wait a minute and 30 seconds.
Harold,
Carol.
state your name.
Carol Burns for the record.
One
minute and 30 seconds.
I got my answers, so thank you.
Cars piled up there. Coming down Clear Acres, because you've got that turn signal.
Yeah, but they're the wrong people you're telling me.
I know. Well, it's gonna be on the record. But it got us short, man.
Through our partnership with them, we can let them know that there's a timing issue. Yeah.
Yeah, we would love to get that and not from you. Oh, Carmen, Martinez for the record. Okay, so Pete, I wonder, why do we pay for metal cutouts of animals like coyotes and deer and decorative rocks when we can't afford to build roads?
That is a great question. So it's actually a requirement when only on federal projects. So on federal projects, any project that has federal funding, you are mandated to spend a minimum of 3% of your overall construction costs on landscape and architecture. So you could thank our federal government for that.
Next time we visit, let's put a bow down 395 at 4 o'clock. About 395, 4 o'clock.
Yep, so RTC, we do very little landscape. We do very little LNA because we like to keep our good roads good.
Thank you.
Like the fish behind the concrete wall as you go up here.
Want that NDOT phone number, please?
Yeah, it's actually.
We'll get that after the meeting. I want to move on if we can. Guys can hopefully get them back for another question. We're running out of time here, so we're gonna modify our meeting really quickly, so everybody get their most important question asked. No. Well, you can ask it next time. I can help you with that. So, thank you much. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna modify this meeting, but I'm gonna need a motion from this board. We're gonna take item number 9 and 10 and move it to next month, which is report request for service from previous CAB meetings and neighborhood development hub. Anybody wanna make the motion? Okay, Amy made the motion. Need a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, then I need a vote. All in favor? Aye. Okay, those items have been moved. The next thing is board member commissioner announcements and requests. Do we have any Zoom from any of our board of commissioners?
We do not.
Okay, so there's no commissioner announcements. Any announcements from this board that need to be made?
Just want to make 2 quick shout outs, Veronica Cortez. 2 citizens that have been working on our cleanups, Jackie Russell and Jason Hines. I just want to mention that they are taking their time, effort, and money to clean up cars and working on, like Mike had mentioned, that homeless camp over there, but also there's people working at other ends of the valley. But I did want to mention Jason Hines, Jackie Russell, thank you so much for your efforts in cleaning up the valley. Thank you. The citizens, regular citizens doing their part.
Okay, I have one, Carmen Ortiz for the record. So starting last July, I moved from the board to the audience. So this is my little folder that I've been using since I was first appointed to the CAB in 2015. I hadn't pulled it out because I was sitting in the audience. When I pulled it out today to sit on the board, I have a note from July 13th of 2024 when we requested to have code enforcement come out and Tumwa come out. And then popped up another one from February, or excuse me, another time in 2024 when we requested code enforcement and Tumwa to come out. So I'd like to formally ask that we have Tumwa and code enforcement come out. Thank you.
Amy, hold on, yes, go ahead.
I would say since, 2024, we have had code enforcement come out. Chad Reisinger was here to provide a presentation.
Okay.
In addition, Tumwa, I need more specifics on what they need to talk about. That was supposed to be addressed today with the fire hydrants because the water is wholesale from Tumwa and managed by FBGID. So we can talk more about what the specifics of Tumwa you want to present on, but we can.
And one of the items we just moved addresses these items to next month. Yes, part of it is that, and I'm gonna be working with Alexandria on those things to make sure that we get those items back to the cab. I have a whole list of things that the cab requested we didn't get, and we're gonna go over those next month. Amy, did you have anything you wanna say? All right, well, then we're down back to, I'm gonna let this go because we're, crunched for time. Any other, public comments at this time? Everybody got it out of their system. All right. Then we have, the last thing, we're on item 13 then. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second. Amy second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming.